Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Hollywood Remembers video. Today, we're honoring the American stars we've recently lost, along with other beloved figures who have touched our lives around the world. Before we dive in, if this video resonates with you, we'd truly appreciate a like. It helps us continue sharing these heartfelt tributes with the respect and care they deserve. Thank you for your support. And now, let's begin.
Jesse Louis Jackson stood as a steadfast voice for justice, a devoted minister, and a courageous advocate who carried forward the dream of the civil rights movement. As a close protege of Martin Luther King Jr., he transformed conviction into action, marching in the streets and preaching from the pulpit with unwavering faith in equality. Many will forever remember his powerful speeches during his historic presidential campaigns, when he inspired millions with the reminder to keep hope alive, words that resonated far beyond politics and into the hearts of everyday Americans. Through decades of service, Reverend Jackson championed voting rights, economic opportunity, and human dignity. His work reminded a divided nation that progress is born of perseverance and moral courage. For those who witnessed the struggles of the 1960s and the long road that followed, his leadership symbolized continuity, a bridge between sacrifice and promise. His legacy endures not only in legislation or headlines, but in the countless lives encouraged to stand taller, speak louder, and believe more deeply in justice. As we reflect on his remarkable journey, may we also reflect on our own role in shaping a kinder, fairer society. We invite you to share your memories. How did Jesse Jackson's words or witness touch your life? In honoring him, we celebrate a life devoted to hope, faith, and the enduring pursuit of equality. Billy Steinberg was a master of melody and emotion, a gifted songwriter whose words became the soundtrack of a generation. Born in Palm Springs, he rose to prominence crafting unforgettable hits that spoke of love, longing, and resilience. Many will recall the profound impact of songs like a Virgin and True Colors, which not only topped the charts, but also touched hearts with their honesty and depth. Through his collaborations with remarkable artists, Steinberg demonstrated a rare ability to capture universal feelings in simple yet powerful lyrics. His music accompanied first dances, quiet reflections, and moments of personal triumph, weaving itself into the fabric of everyday life. For those who grew up in the vibrant decades of the 1980s and beyond, his songs remain cherished companions, echoing memories of youth and hope. Beyond commercial success, his enduring gift was his sincerity, a belief that music could uplift, comfort, and unite. His legacy lives on each time one of his melodies plays and someone is reminded of a special moment in their own story. As we honor Billy Steinberg's remarkable life, we invite you to reflect. Which of his songs marked a meaningful chapter in your journey? Share your memories and celebrate the timeless music he leaves behind. In remembering him, we give thanks for a life devoted to creativity, feeling, and the enduring power of song. Douglas Edwin Moe was a dynamic presence in American basketball, remembered both for his brilliance on the court and his resilience in the face of adversity. A standout forward for the North Carolina Tar Heels, he earned All-American honors twice, captivating fans with his skill, determination, and competitive spirit during an era when college basketball was rapidly growing in national prominence. Though his collegiate career was later shadowed by controversy, Moe's life in the game did not end there. He returned to basketball with renewed purpose, forging a respected career as a professional player and, most notably, as a coach. On the sidelines, he became known for his up-tempo style and deep understanding of the sport, guiding teams with passion and authenticity. Many fans fondly remember his years coaching in the NBA, where his distinctive approach brought excitement and identity to his teams. For those who followed the game across decades, Doug Moe represented perseverance, a reminder that one's story is not defined by a single chapter, but by the courage to continue forward. His legacy lives on in the players he mentored and in the vibrant style of play he championed. As we reflect on his remarkable journey, we invite you to share your memories. Did you watch him play or cheer from the stands as he coached? In remembering Doug Moe, we honor a life devoted to the enduring spirit of basketball and the lessons it teaches us all.
Robert Duvall stood among the great pillars of American cinema, a performer of quiet strength and profound authenticity. Born in San Diego in 1931, he shaped characters with rare depth, earning 7 Academy Award nominations and winning the Oscar for his unforgettable role in Tender Mercies. Many will forever recall his commanding presence in The Godfather, where his restrained yet powerful performance left an indelible mark on film history. Across decades, Duvall brought dignity and humanity to every role, from soldiers to statesmen, from men of faith to flawed heroes. His artistry earned him Golden Globes, a BAFTA, an Emmy, and the National Medal of Arts. Yet his greatest achievement was the trust of audiences who believed every word he spoke on screen. For those who cherished the golden eras of cinema, Robert Duvall represented craftsmanship at its finest, a reminder that true talent whispers rather than shouts. His legacy lives on in the timeless films that continue to move and inspire generations. As we honor his remarkable life, we invite you to reflect. Which performance touched your heart most deeply? Share your memories and celebrate a man whose work enriched our cultural heritage. In remembering him, we give thanks for a life devoted to excellence, integrity, and the enduring power of storytelling.
Charlie Meza was a bright light whose courage far exceeded her 9 tender years. Through her mother's loving posts, the world came to know a brave little girl facing brain cancer with remarkable grace. Many were deeply moved by her radiant smile during hospital moments, where even in treatment, she chose joy over fear. In a digital age often filled with noise, Charlie's story reminded us of what truly matters: family, faith, resilience, and the quiet strength found in the smallest among us. Her journey touched hearts across generations, especially those who understand the preciousness of time and the power of unwavering love. Though her life was brief, her impact was profound. She leaves behind not only memories captured on screens, but a legacy of courage that will continue to inspire compassion and gratitude in all who followed her story. As we remember dear Charlie, we invite you to reflect. How did her bravery or her family's testimony touch your heart? Share your thoughts and keep her spirit alive in kindness and prayer. In honoring her, we celebrate a life that, though short, shone beautifully and will never be forgotten.
He was small, smaller than most boys in his class, restless, quick. The kind of child teachers remembered, not because he was difficult, but because he could not sit inside one version of himself for too long. Michael Andrew Fox was born on June 9, 1961, in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. His father, William, was a police officer and later a member of the Canadian Forces. His mother, Phyllis, worked in payroll. A solid household, modest, structured, not glamorous. They moved often because of his father's work. New schools, new streets, new accents. You learn something when you are the new kid over and over again. You learn how to read a room quickly, how to adapt, how to charm before you are judged. By the time he was a teenager in Burnaby, British Columbia, he had figured out one thing. Being small could be an advantage if you were fast, funny, electric. In the 1970s, he discovered acting almost by accident. A drama teacher noticed something: the timing, the sparkle. He wasn't tall enough to intimidate anyone, but he had presence, and he knew it. He landed a role in the Canadian television series Leo and Me in 1976. He was 15 and certain that Hollywood was not a dream but a plan. His father didn't fully understand the hunger. Acting wasn't a stable profession. It wasn't law enforcement. It wasn't dependable. But his mother saw it. She saw the way he lit up when he performed. That mattered. So at 18, he left Canada for Los Angeles. 18, no guarantees, no net. Hollywood in 1979 wasn't kind to hopeful boys from Canada. He was short. He looked younger than he was. Casting directors didn't know what to do with him. He slept on couches. He worried about rent. He ate cheaply. He questioned himself. But he did not go home. That stubborn streak. It started in those years. The refusal to fold. In 1982, he landed the role that would change his life. Alex P. Keaton on Family Ties. The show was meant to center on the parents, progressive ex-hippies raising children in Reagan-era America. But audiences saw something else. They saw him, a young conservative teenager in love with capitalism and ambition. Sharp, quick-witted. He made political humor feel warm. Viewers, especially women watching at home in the evenings, felt protective of him. He was ambitious, yes, but vulnerable underneath. By 1985, he had won 3 Emmy Awards, 3 before turning 25. That same year, something unexpected happened. A film titled Back to the Future was struggling in production. The original lead actor was replaced. The producers needed someone who could balance humor and sincerity, someone believable as a teenager, but capable of carrying emotional weight. They chose Michael, Marty McFly, denim jacket, red vest, skateboard. When the film premiered on July 3, 1985, it wasn't just a success, it was a cultural shift. Time travel became dinner table conversation. Mothers watched it with their children. Grandparents laughed at the nostalgia. And that young man from Alberta became part of family memory. But even in those golden years, while filming during the day for Family Ties and shooting Back to the Future at night, he was exhausted. 23 years old, living 2 lives at once. He later admitted he wasn't sleeping much. He was drinking more than he should. Fame came fast. Too fast. Applause can feel like oxygen, and when you're young, you inhale deeply. He married actress Tracy Pollan in July 1988 after meeting her on Family Ties. She grounded him, steady, intelligent, calm where he was kinetic. And for a while, it felt like the story had settled. The kid who kept moving had found momentum. But life, as we've learned watching him, does not stay in one timeline. Not for long. It started with a tremor. Not dramatic, not cinematic. Just a small twitch in his pinky finger on the set of Doc Hollywood in late 1990. He was 29 years old. 29. At an age when most men feel invincible, he noticed it first while sitting still, his hand moving when he wasn't telling it to. He tried to ignore it. Fatigue, maybe. Too much work. Too little sleep. Too much drinking. He had been living at full speed for nearly a decade. But the twitch didn't stop. In 1991, after months of testing and doctor visits, he was given a diagnosis that felt impossible to attach to his name. Parkinson's disease. Young onset Parkinson's. The doctor told him he might have 10 good working years left. 10. He went home and didn't tell anyone outside his closest circle. Not the press, not fans, not the industry. He was newly married to Tracy. They had their first child, Sam, born in 1989. A baby in the house, a future unfolding. And now this shadow. He has said later that denial came first, then fear, then something darker. He drank heavily during those early years, vodka in coffee cups, hiding, pretending. He has never painted himself as heroic in that season. He was scared, angry, sad in ways he didn't know how to speak. There is something deeply human about that. He kept working. In 1991, he starred in The Hard Way. In 1993, Life with Mikey. And in 1996, he took on the role of Mike Flaherty in the sitcom Spin City. A brilliant, fast-talking deputy mayor in New York City. The irony wasn't lost on him. On screen, he was energetic, precise, quick with a line. Off screen, he was calculating how to control a hand that wouldn't cooperate. Medication helped. For a while. But it came with side effects. Dyskinesia. Involuntary movements caused by treatment itself. You fix one thing and create another. By 1998, 7 years after his diagnosis, he decided to go public. He announced to the world that he had Parkinson's disease, not because he felt brave, because he was tired of hiding. The reaction surprised him. Letters, support, women his mother's age writing to say they had watched him grow up on television, that they were praying for him, that they saw strength even when he felt none. In 2000, at age 39, he stepped away from Spin City. Not dramatically, not bitterly, just honest about the toll. That same year, he founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research, and something shifted. When you cannot control your body, you look for something you can control. He chose research, advocacy, funding breakthroughs. He has said that acceptance didn't mean liking the diagnosis. It meant understanding it would walk beside him whether he wanted it to or not. Tracy stayed. That matters. It matters more than awards. They had twin daughters, Skylar and Aquina, in 1995, and another daughter, Esme, in 2001. A house filled with children, noise, life continuing in defiance of medical predictions. In 1999, he underwent brain surgery, a thalamotomy, to help reduce tremors. It worked for a time, but Parkinson's does not disappear. It evolves. There were falls, broken bones, setbacks. He has spoken about waking up on the floor, asking himself how much more he could take, but he also jokes. That hasn't left him. Humor, dry, self-aware, a little mischievous, remained intact. He once said that Parkinson's forced him to learn patience and gratitude. That bad things happen, yes, but they don't cancel everything good. He turned vulnerability into purpose, and somewhere in those years, the boy who couldn't sit still learned something new: how to endure, not quietly, but openly. After he stepped away from Spin City in 2000, there was silence. Not the peaceful kind, the uncertain kind, the kind that makes you wonder who you are when the cameras turn off. He was 39 years old, too young to retire, too well known to disappear completely, and now publicly, a man living with Parkinson's disease. The headlines had been written, the sympathy offered, the applause for his honesty still echoing. But then what? There is a strange thing about illness when it becomes part of your public identity. People either freeze you in time, poor Michael, or they elevate you into something saintly. Brave Michael, heroic Michael. He didn't want either. He wanted to work, to laugh, to still be the guy who could steal a scene with a raised eyebrow. The early 2000s were uneven. Medications had to be adjusted constantly. Parkinson's is not polite. It does not follow a schedule. Some mornings were manageable, others were stiff, slow, resistant. He has described the sensation as trying to argue with his own body. But he came back. In 2004, he made guest appearances on shows like Scrubs. In 2006, he joined Boston Legal, earning an Emmy nomination for playing a character with obsessive-compulsive disorder. The irony again, portraying someone with neurological challenges while navigating his own. The performances were sharper, more layered. There was depth now that hadn't been there in the 1980s. Age had softened some edges and sharpened others. In 2009, he published his first memoir, Lucky Man. The title alone felt almost provocative. Lucky? With Parkinson's? He explained it simply. He felt lucky for the life he had before diagnosis. Lucky for Tracy. Lucky for his children. Lucky for purpose. The book wasn't polished into something overly triumphant. He admitted to depression, to drinking too much in the early years, to moments of anger so raw they surprised him. He wrote about staring at his hand and whispering, "Behave." There was something women especially responded to in that honesty. A man who didn't pretend to be invincible. A man who allowed fear and still kept moving. In the years that followed, the Michael J. Fox Foundation grew rapidly. Research grants, clinical trials, political advocacy. By the 2010s, it had become the largest non-profit funder of Parkinson's research in the world. He spent time in Washington, D.C., speaking to lawmakers, calm, direct. sometimes using humor to deflate tension. He wasn't dramatic, he was practical. "If you cure Parkinson's," he would say, "I'll be the happiest unemployed person you've ever met." In 2012, he returned to sitcom television with The Michael J. Fox Show, loosely inspired by his real life. It was bold, putting Parkinson's at the center of a comedy. Some viewers loved it, others were uncomfortable. The show lasted one season. Failure? Or adjustment? He didn't spiral this time. There is a maturity that comes when you've already survived your worst fear. A cancelled show doesn't compare to a diagnosis that changes your physical future. Still, it stung. He has spoken about feeling useful on set, about the joy of collaboration, about how acting, even in shorter bursts, made him feel whole. By the mid-2010s, his symptoms had progressed. Balance became more difficult, speech sometimes softer, movement less predictable. In 2018, he underwent spinal surgery to remove a tumor that was benign but affecting his mobility. Complications followed: a broken arm, months of rehabilitation, another test. He once said that gratitude is a muscle. You strengthen it by using it. But some days, that muscle aches. Through it all, Tracy remained the constant. He has described her as his anchor, not in a dramatic way, simply steady. She raised their children with him. She adjusted without complaint. She laughed at his jokes even when the timing wobbled, and he learned to stand differently, not upright in the effortless way of youth, but grounded in something deeper: purpose, acceptance, humor. The boy who couldn't sit still had discovered how to live inside stillness. By the late 2010s, he was walking more carefully. You could see it in interviews, the pauses before standing, the way he adjusted his footing. Parkinson's had progressed, not dramatically overnight, just gradually, the way time does what it does. In April 2018, doctors discovered a benign tumor on his spine. It wasn't related to Parkinson's, but it was compressing his spinal cord. If it wasn't removed, he risked paralysis. So he had surgery. He went under the knife again. Another hospital room, another stretch of white ceiling tiles above him. He has said that hospitals bring back a certain kind of awareness, how fragile the human body really is. The tumor was successfully removed, but rehabilitation was harder than he expected. Weeks later, still relearning balance, he fell in his kitchen and shattered his left arm. The kind of fall that feels unfair, cruel almost. You endure surgery and then gravity reminds you who's in charge. He had plates and screws inserted, physical therapy again, slow progress, pain. He has admitted that this period tested him more than the initial diagnosis had years earlier. The optimism he had carefully built, the resilience, all of it felt strained. There's something about repeated setbacks. They don't just hit the body, they hit belief. He began to ask himself harder questions. What if I can't keep doing this publicly? What if the body I've been negotiating with finally refuses? In 2020, during the pandemic, isolation brought reflection. Fewer public appearances, more time at home. Tracy beside him. Their children grown now. A quieter house than the one filled with laughter in the 1990s, he wrote again. In 2020, he released No Time Like the Future. The title carried both humor and acceptance. He wrote candidly about losing some of the optimism that had defined his earlier years. About days when positivity felt forced. He didn't pretend. He described sitting on a dock one evening, contemplating how much more he could endure. Not dramatically, just honestly. Then he reminded himself of what had carried him before. Choice. Parkinson's is not a choice. Tumors are not a choice. Falling isn't a choice. But perspective can be. That sounds simple, almost too simple. But when you hear him speak it, not like a motivational speaker, but like a man thinking out loud, it feels earned. In November 2021, he announced that he was retiring from acting. Quietly, no farewell tour, no dramatic press conference. He said his memory was becoming unreliable, that lines weren't sticking the way they used to, and he refused to deliver work that felt less than honest. That decision, that might have been one of his bravest. Not because it was heroic, because it was humble. He stepped away from the thing that made him famous, the thing that had defined his public identity since 1982, not out of defeat, out of integrity. In interviews, he still jokes, The timing sometimes unpredictable, the body sometimes moving on its own rhythm, but the mind, still sharp, still curious. In 2022, his documentary, Still, a Michael J. Fox movie began production, later premiering in 2023. It didn't polish his story. It showed falls, frustration, laughter, Tracy's watchful presence, old footage of him racing across studio sets in the 1980s, intercut with careful steps now. Watching it feels like watching time itself, and yet he does not speak like a man finished. He speaks like someone mid-sentence. In 2023, scientific advances funded partly by his foundation identified biomarkers that could dramatically improve Parkinson's diagnosis and treatment pathways. He responded not with celebration for himself, but relief for future families. There is something steady about him now, not physically steady, emotionally. He once said, "With gratitude, optimism is sustainable. Not blind optimism, earned optimism." And when you see him today, seated often, moving carefully, smiling sideways, you don't see a tragedy. You see a life still unfolding, just at a different pace. There's something no one warned him about when he got married in July 1988. Fame is loud, illness is louder, but marriage is quiet work. He met Tracy Pollan when she joined Family Ties in 1985. She played Ellen, Alex P. Keaton's girlfriend. She wasn't dazzled by him. That might have been the first clue. She liked him, but she wasn't impressed in the way strangers were. She saw the restless energy, the insecurity underneath the quick humor. They dated briefly, then life got busy, movies, location shoots, success pulling him in every direction. They reconnected in 1987 while filming Bright Lights, Big City. He was different then, fame heavier on his shoulders, drinking more than he should, sleeping less than he needed. She saw that too. They married on July 16, 1988. He was 27, she was 28, young, by Hollywood standards, especially in the 1980s. When he was diagnosed in 1991, she was the one in the room when the doctor spoke. The words Parkinson's disease didn't float gently into the air. They landed, solid, heavy. He has admitted that in the early years, he wasn't easy to live with. Anger visited the house. So did denial. So did vodka. She didn't fix him. She stayed. That distinction matters. There were nights he woke shaking, not just from tremors, from fear. He once described lying awake, calculating how long he would be strong enough to hold their son's hand while crossing a street. It sounds small, but it wasn't. Tracy kept the rhythm of the family steady. School runs, homework, dinner at the table. Their twins were born in 1995, another daughter in 2001, 4 children in total. Noise, teenagers, schedules. Life did not revolve around Parkinson's. That was intentional. He has said that his wife gave him the space to be afraid, without letting fear become the main character. She didn't allow the illness to define the mood of the household. That doesn't mean it was smooth. There were arguments. He has admitted that sometimes he withdrew. Sometimes he was sarcastic in ways that masked hurt. Parkinson's affects more than movement. It touches pride. It whispers about masculinity, about usefulness. A man used to being the fastest one in the room suddenly needing help buttoning a shirt. That's not an easy adjustment. And yet, if you watch them in interviews, even in recent years, there's something still light between them. A shared glance, a private joke. She once said that humor saved them. That and perspective. They celebrated 25 years of marriage in 2013, then 30, then 35 in 2023. In Hollywood, those numbers are rare, almost rebellious. He has described their relationship not as dramatic romance, but as partnership, practical, loyal, deep. He once joked that Parkinson's didn't ruin his marriage because it never got a vote. There's wisdom in that. Illness can sit at the table. But it doesn't get to choose the direction of the family. Their children grew up watching their father fall and get up, watching their mother steady him without making it feel like sacrifice. That shapes a family differently than success alone ever could. He has said that one of his proudest achievements isn't an Emmy. It's the fact that his children are kind, that they understand resilience not as something loud but daily. When he decided to retire from acting in 2021, it wasn't just about work. It was about conserving energy for what mattered most. Home. The young man who once slept on couches in Los Angeles now spends more time on a literal one. Sometimes because his body needs rest. Sometimes because he chooses stillness over exhaustion. And Tracy is still there. Not as a caretaker in the sentimental sense, as his equal. There is dignity in that kind of love. Not flashy, not headline-worthy, just enduring. In the beginning, it was just an idea, not a grand vision, not a polished non-profit with a staff and a strategy deck, just a thought that formed somewhere between frustration and hope. In 2000, when he left Spin City, he had time. And for the first time since 1991, he wasn't spending energy hiding. He founded the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's Research that same year. At first, people wondered if it was a celebrity project, a name, a fundraiser here and there, a cause attached to a familiar face. It became something else entirely. He approached it the way he approached acting in his 20s, focused, relentless, unwilling to waste time. But this wasn't about box office numbers. It was about laboratories, clinical trials, data. He educated himself, sat with scientists, asked questions without pretending to understand everything at first. He has said more than once that he is not the smartest person in the room, but he knows how to listen. The foundation made a choice early on: fund aggressively, move quickly, support research others considered too ambitious. Parkinson's had been studied for decades, but progress was slow. Cautious. He didn't feel cautious. By the mid-2000s, millions had been raised, then hundreds of millions. By the 2020s, over $1 billion directed toward research programs around the world. That number sounds abstract, but behind it are names, families. Women who had watched him on Family Ties in the 1980s, now writing checks because their husbands had begun to shake, because their brothers struggled to button shirts, because they recognized in him something familiar: trust. In 2013, he told a Senate committee that research funding wasn't charity, it was investment. Calm, clear, no self-pity. He didn't beg, he explained. There is power in that tone. In 2017, the foundation helped launch the Parkinson's Progression Markers Initiative. A long name, a serious project, tracking biomarkers in patients before symptoms fully appeared, trying to understand the disease earlier. Earlier means options. Earlier means hope. He has said the word cure carefully, not as promise, as possibility. There were moments when public advocacy backfired. In 2006, a political advertisement about stem cell research stirred controversy. Critics questioned whether he had exaggerated his symptoms in the ad. It hurt, not because of political disagreement. Because of the suggestion that he would fake weakness, he responded simply, "I'm not that good an actor." It disarmed the noise. Advocacy isn't always graceful. It requires stepping into uncomfortable rooms, letting your illness be visible when you might prefer privacy. But he did it anyway. Over time, something interesting happened. The foundation grew larger than his acting career had ever been, more enduring, more impactful in ways that cannot be measured in ticket sales. In 2023, researchers funded through his organization identified biological markers that could dramatically change how Parkinson's is diagnosed and treated. For families, this meant clarity; for scientists, acceleration; for him, validation, not of suffering, of purpose. He once said that Parkinson's may have taken some things from him, but it also gave him a mission. That sentence can sound polished if you rush past it, but if you sit with it, you hear complexity. He would never have chosen the diagnosis. No one would. But once handed it, he refused to let it shrink his life down to appointments and prescriptions. He expanded. There are days when his speech is softer, when movement is uneven, but when he speaks about research, his voice steadies. He talks about data the way he once talked about scripts, structure, possibility, timing. The foundation is not a monument to illness. It's a continuation of his stubbornness. The boy who wouldn't go home from Hollywood now refuses to let Parkinson's go unchallenged. And every time a new discovery is announced, somewhere in a living room, a woman who once watched Marty McFly grin on screen feels something close to relief. The story did not end in 1991. It widened. There's an image many of us hold in our minds. Michael J. Fox racing across a high school parking lot, skateboard under his arm, denim jacket bouncing with movement, kinetic, breathless. And then there is the present, a chair, a careful rise to standing, a body that doesn't always cooperate. It would be easy to place those two images side by side and call it loss. He doesn't. In May 2023, Still, a Michael J. Fox movie premiered at the Sundance Film Festival. The documentary didn't polish his life into something noble and distant. It showed him falling, struggling to balance, waiting for medication to kick in. Frustrated, then laughing about it minutes later. He falls often. That's something he has spoken about openly. Broken bones, bruises, the dull thud of hitting the ground, the calculation before getting up. Do I need help? Can I do this alone? There is no music swelling in those moments, just breath, just effort. And then, usually, a joke. Humor didn't leave him when steadiness did. In interviews, especially in recent years, he doesn't posture. He doesn't perform resilience like a script. He pauses. He acknowledges pain. He admits that Parkinson's has become tougher. That optimism isn't automatic anymore. In 2022, he said publicly that he doesn't expect to live to be 80, not dramatically, just realistically. That sentence landed hard for people who grew up with him, but what struck many was what followed. He didn't say it with despair. He said it with clarity, as if measuring time differently now, not in decades, in days, in conversations, in small victories. He and Tracy spend more time at home these days, quiet evenings, family dinners when the children visit, grand projects replaced by manageable rhythms. He's careful with his energy, but he still shows up. In October 2022, when he reunited with Christopher Lloyd at New York Comic Con, the audience stood before they even realized they were standing. The two of them, Marty and Doc Brown, embracing on stage decades after Back to the Future, changed pop culture. Time folded in on itself. He needed help walking, his balance unsteady. Lloyd held him without making it obvious. Women in that audience, women who had watched him in 1985 while folding laundry or rocking babies to sleep, were crying openly. Not because he looked fragile, because he looked real. There's something about seeing someone age in public that mirrors our own journey. He has wrinkles now, lines earned, a face softened, a body altered. He does not hide it. He once said that his life hasn't been tragic, that he has had a great life, greater than he ever expected when he left Alberta with a suitcase and nerves. That perspective feels radical in a culture obsessed with youth. He lost speed, he lost control in small ways, he lost certain roles, but he gained depth, patience, the ability to sit with discomfort without scrambling to escape it. If you watch him now, seated in a chair during interviews, sometimes rocking slightly from medication side effects, there is still mischief in his eyes, still timing, still warmth. He doesn't talk like a man who has been defeated. He talks like someone adjusting to new rules. And if you listen closely, you can hear something steady underneath everything. Gratitude, yes, but also defiance. Not loud, quiet. He will not be reduced to a diagnosis. He will not be remembered only as a tremor. He is the same boy who refused to go home when auditions failed. The same young man who shot sitcom scenes by day and time-traveled by night. The same husband who leaned into partnership instead of pride. Just older, just slower, still here. If you see him today, you notice the pace first. It's different now. Where there was once sprinting across sound stages and red carpets, there is deliberation. A careful shift of weight before standing. A pause before speaking. Medication working in cycles, good hours, harder ones. And yet, if you sit with him long enough, something becomes clear. The essence didn't slow. Michael Andrew Fox is in his 60s now, born in 1961. A life that has stretched across black and white television memories, VHS tapes, DVDs, streaming platforms, across Reagan and Clinton and Bush and Obama and beyond, across decades where the women watching him moved from young mothers to grandmothers. He moved with you. When he was diagnosed in 1991, his future narrowed suddenly. Doctors estimated timelines. Calculations were made in quiet rooms. But here he is more than 3 decades later, not untouched, not unchanged, but here. He has spoken candidly in recent interviews about gratitude feeling more intentional now, about mornings when stiffness makes him impatient, about nights when fatigue presses heavier than it used to. He doesn't glamorize it. He doesn't dramatize it either. He says what is true: there are days he needs help getting dressed, days when words arrive slower. Parkinson's has advanced. That's reality. He does not pretend otherwise. And still, when breakthroughs are announced through his foundation, new diagnostic tools, improved clinical trials, his voice sharpens. Hope doesn't rush him. It steadies him. He is not waiting for a miracle. He is participating in one. He once said that happiness isn't the absence of struggle. It's the ability to find light inside it. That sentence sounds almost too polished until you remember how many flaws he has picked himself up from, how many surgeries, how many physical therapy sessions, how many times he has recalibrated expectation. This is not the arc of a man who conquered illness. It's the story of a man who coexisted with it. Women who watched Family Ties in 1982 remember Alex P. Keaton's bright ambition. Women who cried during Back to the Future in 1985 remember the tenderness behind the jokes. Those same women now see him speak about aging and feel something deeper: companionship. He aged in front of you, and he did it honestly. He doesn't sell invincibility. He doesn't speak in slogans. When he says optimism must be earned, you believe him, because you've seen what it cost. Tracy still sits beside him, their children grown, grounded, a home that adjusted without breaking. The foundation continues, scientists continue, families continue. He is not racing anymore, he is witnessing. There is a calm about him now that didn't exist in the 1980s. The kinetic energy transformed into something quieter, more deliberate. If you asked him today who he is, he might not say actor first. He might say husband, father, advocate. But somewhere inside, the boy from Alberta is still there, the one who refused to be told no, the one who believed he could cross borders and build a life that mattered. Parkinson's altered the script. It did not erase the character, and when you watch him now, seated, smiling sideways, sometimes rocking gently as the medication does its imperfect work, you don't see an ending. You see continuity. A man living day by day, not chasing yesterday, not fearing tomorrow the way he once did. Just here, still grateful, still imperfect, still becoming,